what is expedition racing and adventure racing. And at the end, I'll kind of recap what it is and how I got into it, and maybe some funny stories along the way. So Sea to Sea is an expedition race that starts in St. Augustine in essence. You spend the night in St. Augustine in a hotel, get on the bus Thursday morning, generally around 5 or 6. When you get on the bus, you are handed a handful of maps, generally at least 20, if not 30. You get on the bus for the ride over to the Gulf Coast. You don't know where you're getting off on the Gulf Coast, you just know that you are going to the Gulf Coast. Now, we don't go necessarily straight across and race straight across. We usually weave down the state and we get dropped off. Along that route, we look over a map and assess what routes we want to get, which routes we want to take, and how many checkpoints we want to get. Some of the checkpoints are right off of the trail, and some of the checkpoints are really far off the trail. Sometimes you may decide to go really far off the trail depending on the mode of transportation that you are using at the time. We will use a bike, we will trek, and we will row. And depending on the size of your team, you'll be in a kayak or a canoe. In other adventure races, you may use a packraft, like the one above me here, which I've used in many adventure races. Sea to Sea is a fully supported race, so they supply the boat, and you supply the bike, or you rent a bike in town. What do we use to find the checkpoints? We'll use the map and a compass. You do not use GPS. You are given a GPS tracker when you get off the bus somewhere on the Gulf Coast, and you put that in your pack. Now, the fun thing about that is if you are somebody that has somebody in the race and you want to follow them, you can go to a special website that logs all of the GPS trackers, and you can see them. Plus, it's overlaid basically over the map that we see, and you can see if we're getting close to the checkpoints or not getting close to the checkpoints. We call that dot watching. My mom tells me my dad will wake up in the middle of the night at times and log in just to see where we're at and yell at the computer that we're close and why aren't we going there? And it's super funny to hear my mom's commentary of my dad trying to find out why we didn't go this way or why we're going that way and what we're doing. There's 72 checkpoints. The pros will get all the checkpoints. Being competitive, we try to maximize our time and get as many checkpoints as possible. Not always happening. I think last year I got 46 checkpoints and ended up, I believe, 4th or 5th in my category that I was racing under. Checkpoints are more important than time. You want to make it back within the 72 hours. Anything over, you start losing checkpoints based off of the rules. I think it's for the first minute you lose a checkpoint, and for every 5 minutes after you lose a checkpoint. So you want to make it back as fast as possible with as many checkpoints, because checkpoints are what counts first. You will transition from a kayak, a canoe, to a bike, to trekking. That is done via a transition area, and you will bring a transition bucket with all of your items that you think you need for the race. There is a weight limit in your bin, and there is a specific bin you have to bring. So you can't just bring an exorbitant amount of stuff that weighs 100 pounds. Bring all your food, even though they do supply food. You need to bring, nutrition that you know that you can use to make it the 72 hours. Now, the first year I did it, in the 72 hours, I think we slept, at least I slept for 20 minutes. So you have to manage sleep, you have to manage your food, your nutrition, your water, anything that you think you need to make it across the state. Obviously train to do this and assess your limits by pushing those while training. You'll train dehydrated and to recognize when is dehydration coming on, when is maybe heat stroke coming on, when is hypothermia coming on. Knowing those limits so that you can, generally you will approach those boundaries and you don't want to go over them so you can't continue, but you want to be able to get to that limit and know how to step back from it, but continue to move forward. In the process of making this video, I had been making videos on my gear list and went this morning to get my hair cut. And I was talking to the barber and she was like, "What is this? What are you doing?" And made me think, well, there are a lot of people that don't know my craziness. They know that I do Spartan racing, Spartan Hurricane heat type stuff. And that's actually how I got started in doing this. Doing adventure racing and expedition racing was through my ongoing events in Spartan racing and then Hurricane heats. The next progression for me was to do adventure racing, which was always on my radar. I just never felt like I would ever be at that level of fitness to be able to do that. Slowly, I worked up to that, probably about 3 years. Spartan racing, Hurricane heat competing. Let me segue into that is, if you are interested in doing it, you don't necessarily have to go through the Spartan route, but one of the ways that opened my eyes to what adventure racing was to do my local orienteering club. And here in Phoenix, it's the Phoenix Greater Orienteering Club. I went on a bunch of meets with them, and you do basically kind of like the same thing you do in adventure racing, except for their maps are a lot more detailed and it's shorter time. I think the longest one I've ever competed in was 12 hours. And you get a good idea of the pace, your ability to navigate and find stuff with a map and a compass, know what the elements are like, depending on, generally this is a sport where regardless of what the weather is, you're doing it. I remember doing a race with teammates that have done multiple races with me. That would be Donna and Kirsten. We did Maine Endless Summer. And I believe it rained for at least 15 hours of the 24-hour race. And I ended with severe hypothermia. Luckily, Donna had a nice, warm, gigantic blanket in her van. And I stripped all my wet clothes off after that race and put an emergency blanket on and that big, warm, comfy blanket. And was able to attend the award ceremony and recover. But yeah, so that's adventure racing. And if you're interested in getting into it, I am doing a series on the type of gear you need, the type of training I do, the type of food I bring, the type of, like I said, gear, but like the packraft. In certain races you will do that. I completed an adventure race where we rode our bike to a location along a lake. We had to break our bike down, take our packraft out of our backpack, inflate our packraft, and then strap our bike and all of the pieces to the front of the packraft, and then paddle to an island. Once you got to the island, you had to decide whether or not you wanted to trek speed walking with your backpack and your map and your compass to find the checkpoints, or if you wanted to assemble your bike and then use your bike. Bike was a faster mode of transportation, so that's what I did. You have to rely on yourself, your teammates, your ability to fix a bike, fix a boat that has a leak, overcome being lost. This is not an event where the trail is marked. You have a map and you're told to get from here to here, and how you do it is up to you. And if you get lost, you got to re-find yourself. In the night, during the day, in the wild, in Florida, you will be in a canoe and you will be racing with other competitors around you. A lot of times you will not see them on the river when you're in your canoe or your kayak, but you will see in the middle of the night with your headlamp shining into the water,
Pirate ship.
blinky eyes, which are alligators or frogs, and you will hear things yelling and screaming in the woods. It is somewhat terrifying, but thrilling. If you're interested in any of this, like and subscribe. There'll be more information on this. And in general, as the channel says, Loomis Family Adventures, we are always doing crazy things. You can find a video on our channel about Brown's Ranch where I train and ride. I did that video with my younger daughter Ella, who is now 14. I'm putting up a video on our sailing trip to Croatia over the summer last year, which is eventually where we want to end up as a family, buying a catamaran within the next year and a half and sailing the world. Probably get a theme here is I am into pushing the limits, seeing what I can do, staying in shape. If any of that intrigues you, or you're just entertained by my wackiness and you want to see more, like I said, subscribe and there'll be a lot more. I am the owner with my family of Unique Metal Holders. We make trifecta holders for people that do Spartan racing. What is a trifecta holder? It is what you see here on the wall: helmets, spears, tikis. This is an Honor Series Spartan helmet that we make. It has the Marine logo in it. It's actually been dipped. A Spartan race, you get different wedges. You get one for a short race, one for a medium race, and one for a long race. And the shorter ones have less obstacles, and the longer races have more obstacles. Making a trifecta, and you can place it in our helmet with our magnet system, and then you put it on the wall. We make a silver version, a bronze version, an antique bronze version, copper,